Hello everybody, this is TipTopMTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my predictions on what is going to be happening in Zendikar Rising. Some of these are based on evidence and reason, and some of these are just gut feelings, but I will explain each of my thoughts on each of them. Also, if you guys didn't know, about a month ago they did a panel at Comic-Con where they talked about Zendikar Rising, and so I am using knowledge from that panel. So if you ignored that panel and do not want to know anything they talked about, I would recommend clicking off the video because I will be using that to kind of not justify my predictions, but talk about why they could be true. Alright, why don't we jump into this? So, obviously, they confirmed that there will be 3 mechanics in the set, and one of them was going to be a new mechanic. And I think this mechanic is going to be something around rebuilding. Zendikar, last time we left it, was devastated by the Eldrazi, and I think that they'll have some mechanic that represents that in some way, whether it be some sort of flip card where you're going to end up, something in runes and then you fix it, or I don't really know exactly what, but it's going to be based on an older mechanic. I'm sure there's an older mechanic that could be upgraded to be more of a rebuilding. The other thing I could do is I could see them redoing adventures, but in a slightly different way. I don't know what that different way would be, but this is an adventure plane, and so the mechanic about adventures might make sense, and maybe they change it a little bit to be more Zendikar-y, but that would be kind of interesting. And then I think Zendikar Rising will see the return of landfall. I think this is a quite high, this is almost guaranteed. We know that one of the mechanics is going to be land-based most likely, so I just can't see it not being landfall. It's so popular. And then the last mechanic I think will be something like Kicker and Multi-Kicker. It's been a while since we've seen Kicker, and even longer since Multi-Kicker, and they are generally pretty easy themes to design for. You really don't need a Kicker matters. It's just something you throw onto cards, and it means that they can put more focus into the new mechanic and landfall. Now, obviously, this could be something cool like Level Up or Totem Armor, but I just don't see 3 major theme mechanics being supported. I mean, look at past sets. Not too many of them were able to fully support 3 different mechanics at the same time. On top of the 3 mechanics, there will be some sort of flip cards, whether they are traditional or used in other ways, such as a rebuilding mechanic like I talked about before. So I saw, on Reddit, some people are speculating that maybe they're flip cards that maybe transform, you can play either side of them. I just think that it's been a while since we've had flip cards, and Mark Rosewater has talked a lot about them, it feels like, recently, and there's going to be some sort of alternate frame that's been, confirmed for some mechanic or thing in Zendikar, so I would not be surprised if flip lands are the thing, or just flip cards that flip. That's going to be something to do with it. That's my prediction. Next, we have people. I think that people are going to be disappointed by the commander decks. I think that they're going to be too basic in almost a planeswalker deck way. Now, obviously, the planeswalker decks are limited to the cards of the set, and obviously these commander decks will not be, so I think they definitely will be higher powered, but I think that if you were to play, say, a 2020 Commander Precon versus a Zendikar Rising Precon, the 2020 Precon is going to be much more powerful. There's only going to be a couple new cards within the Commander product, but who knows? The first time they do something, they do kind of like to buff it up a little bit, so maybe the first time it'll be really good. I'm just worried that because this is supposed to be an introductory product, that the decks are going to be so boring and the commanders are going to be lame and no one's going to want them. I'm excited for this, and I'm counting it as a full commander release, the Zendikar commander booster or products, even if there's only 2 new legendary creatures, that's still a decent amount. I just hope they're interesting, but something tells me that it's going to be a little too basic for what people like. Now, while there will be no Eldrazi in the main set, I think that there may be an Eldrazi in the commander decks. The commander decks are not going to need to exactly follow the lore, exactly, and I think that they could have some, the remnant of Eldrazi. They're still there, they're not in the main set, but, they're leaving, basically, and the commander deck kind of fills that gap, so that they can kind of close out the Eldrazi and still have it there without it being in the main set. So that's my prediction for what they're going to do, but anything is really possible. That's what I think is going to happen. Next, I think the story will start a new adventure for the Gatewatch. Since War of the Sparks, there's not really been an overall, story that leads from place to place. There's no Bolas going to Amonkhet to get his army, or, any of that. So I think that we're going to see the first drops of the overarching story. It's not going to be a lot, but Zendikar Rising will plant the seeds with Jace, Nissa, and Nahiri being there. So I think that's highly likely. I also think we're going to see a cycle of 4-color legendaries similar to Omnath. Now, this one is a little bit more, out there. 4-color legendaries are not that prevalent, but I think that giving one 4-color combination an extra legendary would look really, really weird. So I would not be surprised if we see 3 other legendary creatures that are in the other 4-color combinations. If we see, so we would need enough to fill out the entire cycle, and I don't know if that would exactly happen. Maybe they're planning on doing it over time, so maybe it's Omnath now, another card later, some other card, later, but it'll be interesting to see. It also could theoretically be a 5-color Omnath, but I'm 99% sure it's going to be a 4-color Omnath. If you guys haven't seen the art, it basically shows Omnath with a yellow arm, and people are saying they can see black on his back, but I don't really think that's what that is. Next, I think that all of the showcase cards will be focused around landfall. So generally when they do showcase cards, let's take a look, for instance, in Throne of Eldraine, it was all the adventures. In Theros Beyond Death, it was all the gods and demigods. In Ikoria, it was all the mutate cards. In Core Set 2021, it was all the cards relating to planeswalkers. So they always pick a theme, and I think landfall is going to make a lot of sense. I think that since Omnath's on the front of it, he's going to have a landfall ability, and that's going to be one of his alternate showcase frames, maybe. We'll have to see, but I think this will include lands within the set. There's going to be, in Ikoria it was mutate, but then they also had the land. So I think because it's landfall, it would not be that surprising if the new set of dual lands also have a style involved with them. So that'd be pretty cool. I think a new cycle of Quest will be returning for Zendikar Rising. There were 3 cycles of Quest within, other Zendikar sets, and I just think it would be interesting to see them return in new ways and maybe even more powerful ways. Overall, so far, all of these have been kind of basic. They're kind of based on Zendikar. But I think, actually, here's one of my probably most extreme and most unlikely. I think that land tokens are somehow going to see, a return, not a return, but an appearance. They're going to make an appearance in Zendikar Rising. There's going to be maybe not a mechanic that cares about it, but a couple cards that make or care about land tokens. Honestly, they're one of my favorite things to have on MTG Arena, and you can tell that a lot of the time your opponent's like, what? I didn't even know you could do that. It would be interesting to see. I think that the new rare land cycle will focus around flip cards, like maybe a basic land on each side, and you can play either side but can't flip it later. Or maybe you can pay some mana to flip it. Maybe it's, pay to tap, flip this, or transform this card, and maybe, blue and red, and maybe that explains why there's 6 of them, because maybe there's waste in there. But honestly, I would be surprised if we see colorless mana. We could, but I would be surprised. Now, I do have a couple that are more specific to MTG Arena. I think that with the release of Zendikar Rising, MTG Arena will get mobile support. I feel like there wouldn't be any other time this year that would make sense. Think about it. They want to make it be like, oh, here's Zendikar Rising, this really awesome set, now on mobile. Similar to how Mac came out with Core Set 2021, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to release it before Zendikar Rising and then have everyone's things rotate. And if they did it after Zendikar Rising, well, then there wouldn't be all this buzz already being generated about Zendikar Rising. So I think that whenever they do new platforms, I think they're going to be released alongside a set, and so I think that Zendikar Rising will also bring with it mobile support. I think the MTG Arena Mastery Pass will see some sort of major change, whether it be, how the rewards are structured or just how you gain XP. Something about it is going to see a major change. It's been a while since we've had one of those. And then, speaking of which, I think the Mastery Pass, and I always try to predict what the, 3 things you get right away are. I think that it's going to be an elemental land floaty thingy, and then there'll be one for each basic land type. I think that's what it's going to be. There's going to be Nahiri as an avatar, because we don't have that. And then there's going to be a random card as a sleeve. Sometimes they're random cards, sometimes they're not. Recently, it has been more random cards with the dog from M21 and the shark from Ikoria. So those are just a couple of my predictions. I want to know what you guys are predicting in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.